One more, Adam. The Innovators Global Summit is a 2-day event coming up in San Francisco that will shed light on the work of physician innovators all over the world who are doing their part to affect change in healthcare. While physicians are considered the scientific leaders in healthcare, they aren't always recognized for their efforts pushing for change and improvement in healthcare. And yet many physician innovators are doing some amazing things related to healthcare in different areas all around the world. The inaugural Innovation MD Global Summit 2020 will be held January 11th and January 12th at UCSF Mission Bay in San Francisco, very close to the waterfront. It will showcase the work of physician innovators and hopefully inspire others to learn and ignite innovation in healthcare. To register for the Innovator Global Summit 2020, go to igs2020.com, 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 igs2020.com.
Hi, this is Peter Onorati. You're listening to TV Confidential.
Ed Robertson, along with our guest Tommy Hawkins, Emmy Award-nominated radio and TV broadcaster, former star with the Los Angeles Lakers and the Cincinnati Royals, a longtime executive with the Los Angeles Dodgers, and a Renaissance man, if ever there was one. Tommy's book, Life's Reflections, Poetry for the People, is a collection of poetry that captures Tommy's many interests, which include such subjects as sports, jazz, art, poetry, and life itself. And as we mentioned, each of Tommy's poems is accompanied by a painting or photograph that illustrates his words, including works by such legendary artists as Leroy Neiman and Ernie Barnes. You can order Life's Reflections, Poetry for the People, directly from Tommy himself by going to TommyHawkins.net, www.TommyHawkins.net. Of course, you played in the NBA, Tommy, for 10 years, I think 6 or 7 with the Los Angeles Lakers. And, of course, today, the Lakers are huge in Los Angeles. Once upon a time, believe it or not, folks, once upon a time, there was a time when no one in Los Angeles knew who the Lakers were. Would you tell us the story of what happened when the Lakers first came to Los Angeles from Minneapolis?
Well, first of all, we have to make a comparison. When you look at the Dodgers coming to Los Angeles in 1957, a known entity, the team of Jackie Robinson, the team of the Boys of Summer and everything, everyone knew baseball. Los Angeles was a baseball town. It had been a Pacific Coast League town with the Hollywood Stars and the Los Angeles Angels way back when. The Dodgers came in, met at the airport by 10,000 people, ticker tape parade up and down Broadway, an official welcome on the steps of City Hall. We, the Lakers, drove in through San Bernardino at midnight, and nobody knew we were here, or nobody knew what the hell a Laker was.
Yeah.
And we had to build this franchise from scratch. So when you look at what it is today compared to what it was back in the day that we left Minneapolis and came to Los Angeles, what a difference. But the Lakers were such a non-entity that the first year we were here, we didn't have radio broadcasts of our game.
Mm-hmm. Well,
which people say, "Are you kidding me?" And I said, "No."
Well, I'm old enough, Tommy, that at least I grew up in San Francisco. Different market, obviously, but I'm old enough that if you had the Warriors telecast maybe 10 times a year, that was a lot. It was just very different back then. These days we're so spoiled because every game is available on television and radio. It is hard to imagine. There was a time when that wasn't always the case.
Well, that's very true, and we came in with it was Jerry West's first year. Elgin Baylor, Rudy LaRusso, Frank Selby, Bobby Leonard, myself, Ray Felix, Jimmy Krebs, and everything. Mm-hmm. And we just carved it out. 3,000 people a night at the beginning of the season. By the end of the season, we made the playoffs, and we were averaging 14,505, which was a full house at the newly constructed sports arena. And that's when Chick Hearn joined the Lakers back in 1961.
Chick Hearn, who, for many Lakers fans, especially down here in Southern California, he was the Lakers in many respects.
Oh, he was the voice of the Lakers. He personalized that team. He made it a part of every household. And we have been blessed here in Los Angeles to have the two most outstanding broadcasters of their sports right here in Los Angeles, Vin Scully and the Dodgers and Chick Hearn and the Lakers.
I want to ask you about Vin Scully in just a second, but first, we mentioned you played most of your career with the Los Angeles Lakers, but you spent a significant part, I believe, 3 or 4 years with the old Cincinnati Royals. And what memories do you have of playing with the Cincinnati Royals and alongside the big O Oscar Robertson?
Well, when I got to Cincinnati, I had played six-man for the Lakers for 3 years. And when I got to Cincinnati, I got my first starting position with the big O in the Queen City of Cincinnati. And it was a great town to be in. We had developed a great following. We were in the Eastern Division, and that meant we had to go up against Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. And it was tough, but we were competitive, and we were a very good team. And we also moved throughout Ohio. We played a lot of games in Columbus. We played games in Cleveland. We trained at Lockbourne Air Force Base, which is right outside of Columbus. And I have great memories of Ohio and the city of Cincinnati and everything that we were able to do there.
2 questions. Who was the best player you played with on the same team, and who was the best player that you played against?
Well, that would be an interchangeable coin. Oscar Robertson, to play against him was always tough. To play with him, I loved playing with Oscar because Oscar was able to incorporate my positives or the contributions that I could make to the team into the offensive pattern. And I will never forget him for that. He was great at that. Playing against Elgin, incredibly tough. Playing with Elgin, an incredible delight. Playing with Jerry, another delight. They were people who were dedicated to the game and who played it and who insisted that you gave your all, as they did every night. So, I can go back and forth. I happen to have played with Jerry West, Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson. All Hall of Famers.
All Hall of Famers. Oscar Robertson, of course, Tommy's teammate for 4 years with the old Cincinnati Royals in the early 1960s. Let's see, I understand that one of your poems is based on a singer that you first discovered while you were playing for the Cincinnati Royals.
Yeah, a singer by the name of Amanda Ambrose, who just had a great repertoire of songs, and she would accompany herself at the piano, and she would sing like, "Please Send Me Someone to Love," a real bluesy thing, and then she'd sing "Tura Lura Lura," that's an Irish lullaby. And she had this cross-section of people, and she impressed me so much that one day, years after I had met her and talked to her and we became friends, I was thinking, whatever happened to this lady? So I sat down and started to write the poem, The Search for Amanda Brose. And this particular narrative came out of it. And the interesting story about that is that my secretary, Sue Townsley, said, "I'm going to see what happened to Amanda Brose." So she actually started a search, got in touch with Amanda Brose's daughter in Cincinnati, and this was just last year. Mm-hmm. Got in touch with Amanda Rose's daughter, and her daughter said that Amanda had died 6 months earlier.
Wow.
And was buried in Cincinnati.
Wow. But it's you talk about this in the introduction to Life's Reflections. I mean, no one person works alone. I mean, we are who we are, and we accomplish what we accomplish with the help of other people. And in the case of the Amanda Ambrose poem, you found out what happened to her through your secretary.
Exactly. And also, I did a poem, and I based this poem on, as you get older, you have these reflective moods, these states, if you will, of recapitulation. And you go back of all of the things that you've done in life, and you see this, and you see that, and you relive this and relive that. And so I wrote the narrative Recapitulations. And I think the last stanza of that narrative is, what would have happened if, my God, what a senseless game, but I still insist on petting this beast I will never tame.
Again, those are one of those very questions that we all stop and think about, along the way as we get older. And
exactly.
And it's one of the many reasons why, if you pick up a copy of Life's Reflections, you will enjoy it, not only for Tommy's thoughts, in the various verses that he writes throughout the book, but also the many great paintings and photographs that accompany Life's Reflections, which you can order through Tommy himself by going to TommyHawkins.net, www.TommyHawkins.net. We're talking about how the poems, sometimes the poems reflect, capture reflective moods about life itself, or recapitulation, as you put it. But sometimes, they're just fun things. Like you have a poem about June Lockhart.
Yeah, I did. June Lockhart was a co-host with me for a week when I was doing Mid-Morning Los Angeles, and we did the week before Christmas. And I found her to be the most delightful woman, and she had such a charisma and such spirit. And so I went home one night and I wrote a poem called June and December. And I did a thing on her and everything that she had done, Lassie and all of the television shows and
Lost
movies
in Space.
And everything. And I incorporated that with the spirit of Christmas. And she was delighted with the poem, and she said, I'm just terribly surprised and feeling very favored, and I put it in the book because it's a cross section of things. I've got things in it like our propensity to like to gamble and buy lottery tickets and all of that. I've got a poem in there that how we constantly stay with this, although we never win. And it's called Life's a Bitch.
One of my favorite poems, and again, this goes back to teachers and mentors. One of my favorite poems in Life's Reflection is about a man named Bill McQuitter.
Yes, Bill McQuitter. He was a black All-American basketball player at Xavier College in Louisiana. He was a high school star at Wendell Phillips High School in Chicago, and he came to my school after graduation as the athletic director and head of the safety patrol and prefect of discipline. Man had a lot of jobs. And he was so motivational because he didn't like arrogance. He didn't like wimps. He felt that everybody needed to get into something so that they could make contributions not only to the school but to themselves and their families when they got away from him and everything. And his words and his inspiration lives within me even today. And the poem Where Have You Gone, Bill McQuitter, tracks back to when I was 10 years old and what this man meant to me.
Well, the story you just told is very touching, but one of my favorite parts of that poem is that the name McQuitter, it sounds like a character straight out of Charles Dickens. I mean, but because this is a man who never quit.
No, he says in the poem, in the narrative, McQuitter's my name, he bellowed, and I've never quit in my life. That's a very important passage because he would preach, don't quit, don't give up on yourself, don't give in, keep pushing. If you happen to stumble and fall, get up and finish the race. He was just full of those inspirational bromides, if you will.
Well, Tommy, I have never quit anything in my life unless I've run out of time. And in this case, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I mean, we didn't even talk about your years with the Dodgers, which is a subject in and of itself. I hope one night you'll join us again on TV Confidential. We'll have another conversation.
I'd be glad to do that, and I thank you so much. It's been an extreme pleasure.
Tommy Hawkins, Emmy-nominated radio and TV broadcaster, from a conversation that originally aired in February 2012 on TV Confidential. Tommy Hawkins passed away on August 16, 2017, at the age of 80. The next edition of TV Confidential will premiere next week on this station at the usual time. Ed Robertson, on behalf of Tony Figueroa, Donna Allen, Phil Grice, and Greg Airbar, thank you so much for listening. We will talk to you next time on TV Confidential.